Diana Kako. I am the presenter for the Energy Optimization Program, and I am your Trade Ally representative for any residential questions related to energy optimization programs. You can reach out to me on my cell phone at 734-957-2850. Don't be confused by the Southeast Michigan area code. I do cover the entire state of Michigan. You can also send faxes to me if you need an application review. You can reach out to me by email. And just so you know, along with specializing in the residential HVAC program, I am also a BPI certified building analyst specializing in insulation retrofits for existing homes. The Energy Optimization Collaborative covers 13 utilities here in the state of Michigan, and we are going to be talking about the rebates and the incentives specifically available to Energy Optimization Collaborative utilities. Our 13 utilities are a mix of rural electric cooperatives and some municipal electric utilities. We have Elder Delta Electric in the center of the Upper Peninsula, Cloverland Electric in the eastern Upper Peninsula, Great Lakes Energy down in the Lower Peninsula, starting from the tip of the Lower Peninsula going down to south of Grand Rapids. We have Homeworks Tri-County in the pink colored in service area next to the Great Lakes Energy territory. That Homeworks Tri-County area runs from about Clare down to just south of Lansing. Then we have Midwest Energy and Communications. They're in Southwest Michigan from the greater Kalamazoo Portage area all the way down to the Indiana border, and in Lenawee County near southeastern Michigan, down in the Adrian-Tecumseh area and extending all the way to the Ohio border. Then we have Ontonagon County REA that brings us back to the Upper Peninsula in the west side of the Upper Peninsula there in the red shaded territory. And then we have Presque Isle Electric and Gas. PIENG is the purple shaded portion of the Lower Peninsula in the northeast corner. This incentive program applies only to PIENG electric customers. The vast majority of our municipal electric utilities are located in the Upper Peninsula. That includes the City of Escanaba Electric Department, Marquette Board of Light and Power, Newberry Water and Light Board, the City of Stevenson, and back down in the Lower Peninsula, the City of South Haven. Now, Daggett Electric is listed on our program here, and they are located in the Upper Peninsula. They don't participate in our residential HVAC program. So if you are working with a customer of Daggett Electric, you would only be able to offer them incentives on a heat pump water heater if you are working with one of their commercial and industrial account holders. That's our energy optimization service area. If you have questions in regards to other utilities, you will want to contact those utilities directly. The residential incentive for a heat pump water heater is $700. That is eligible for a new construction project or in existing homes when you're replacing an electric water heater. In order for the heat pump water heater to qualify for the $700 incentive, the model must have a minimum UEF or energy factor of 2.0 or greater. And there are no size restrictions on the size of the heat pump water heater in a residential home. You can use the entry-level heat pump water heater size at 50 gallons or go up to the 80-gallon model. The incentive remains the same at $700. We have a number of our distributor representatives on the phone today, and so that means that they will be ready to help you with questions related to Bradford White heat pump water heaters. We offer an instant incentive to our contractors purchasing equipment from Widdock Supply. Their locations participating in the Instant Markdown program are Traverse City, Gaylord, and Sault Ste. Marie. All you have to do is provide your eligible customers' information to your representative at Widdock Supply and ask for the instant discount. Now, you will need to provide their name and address and, if possible, their account number for their electric utility. Once Widdock Supply is able to verify that that customer is eligible, they will discount your project by $700. Please note you still have to carry this $700 incentive through to your customer. If you do not purchase your equipment from Widdock Supply Please note that you can participate in the incentive program by offering a mail-in rebate. Um, that is a rebate issued directly to the customer in approximately 6 to 8 weeks after we receive the paper application. So for contractors in our Great Lakes Energy Service area, they get a special additional incentive of $500 on top of the energy optimization incentive. This Great Lakes Energy rebate is only available to their residential members, and it must be installed by a Michigan mechanical or plumbing contractor, or at a minimum be verified by one of our licensed Michigan contractors in order for the member to receive the additional $500 incentive. This incentive or rebate comes directly to you or to your customer from Great Lakes Energy. And so this application should be gotten from Great Lakes Energy. You can get a copy of the application from their website, gtlakes.com, or you can contact them directly by phone or email to request the incentive application and ensure funds are available. Again, the requirement other than installation by a contractor, the requirements are the same as the energy optimization program, 2.0 EF or UEF or greater, and again, installed at a location with electric service from Great Lakes Energy. Please make sure that you complete this application and return it directly to Great Lakes Energy within 30 days for the additional $500 incentive. So what does that mean? Well, Great Lakes Energy residential customers or members, receive a combined rebate of up to $1,200. That is the $700 incentive coming from energy optimization, and again, that additional $500 rebate coming from Great Lakes Energy. Again, please make sure that for the Great Lakes Energy rebate, you are getting that application directly from Great Lakes and returning the application directly to Great Lakes Energy. We do offer the same $700 heat pump water heater incentive for our commercial and industrial account holders within participating energy optimization utilities. Again, it is eligible for new construction projects and the replacement of existing electric water heaters. There are no size restrictions. The only requirement is that the minimum UEF or EF on the product be 2.0 or greater. In high-use applications such as commercial kitchens where they may have an additional storage tank for hot water or maybe consuming more than 80 gallons of hot water, making the largest residential tank somewhat inconvenient for a commercial or an industrial application. If you are going into commercial grade models, please contact us directly for incentive amounts. They could be greater than $700. The energy optimization program does make some collateral available to you specifically for the Bradford White Aerotherm series of water heaters, if that is the product that you choose to offer to your customers. The incentive amount is shown on the back page along with the information on where you can find energy optimization's participating utilities. This can be ordered. Simply give us a call or send an email to me letting me know how many you'd like, but we also ensure that these are available at the counter at your Widdock supply locations. And if for some reason you're not quite sure after this presentation how a heat pump water heater works, you can certainly go to the Energy Optimization website for a generic overview of heat pump water heaters operation and features, as well as potential savings and incentive amounts. At this point in time, I'm going to turn our presentation over to Greg Holliday with Bradford White to let you know more about the energy optimization, about the Bradford White Aerotherm water heater. And just so you know, if you have questions about other utility incentives, the Michigan.gov website through the MPSC has a great list and links to other utility incentive programs where you can find more about their incentives or rebates on heat pump water heaters. So now we're going to do a quick screen swap, and Greg will be right with us.
Thank you very much, Diana. And first, let me compliment the state of Michigan and your utilities for the incredible rebates that are being offered. I'll tell you guys, this is the richest rebate in the entire country, except for some fuel switching incentives they have in California. There are no other utilities that have any rebates that combined or separate equal $1,200. And in most states, the rebate is somewhere between $500 and $700. So $1,200 is absolutely insane. This makes selling a heat pump water heater so easy because you now have the cost of this product below what a standard electric water heater is. In fact, it's close to free for the product itself with what you're getting in a rebate, making this a very, very easy conversation to have with a homeowner. So I am Greg Holliday, and I'm speaking to you this morning from my farm in Louisville, Kentucky, where, like you, it's still the sun just now coming up. This is a farm that has both deer and horses. The deer I shoot, the horses I ride on occasion. Not as much as they used to, but I still do. But you're seeing a picture of Michigan when you look, and that's because Bradford White proudly manufactures our water heaters right there in the state of Michigan. So we're not just an American strong company, we're a Michigan strong, Michigan proud company. So you're probably wondering, well, why are you in Kentucky, Greg? Well, that's because my career for 32 years of my life began with General Electric. And GE was actually the first manufacturer and listed as the first Energy Star heat pump water heater all the way back in 2009. And what happened in the course of that career is Bradford White bought the GE plant in Louisville, Kentucky, and picked it up and moved it to Michigan, Middleville, Michigan, so that it continues to be, and I want you to understand this, continues to be the only heat pump water heater made in the United States. I want to let that sink in a little bit because a lot of people don't know that. All of our competitors for unitized units like what you see right here, all of them build outside of the United States. They may be American companies that build other products in the United States, but they do not build heat pump water heaters in the U.S. Only Bradford White does that. So you're seeing a historic company right there in your backyard that builds water heaters there. We also are part of Lars. We own Lars. We own Nile Steel Tank. And we also have Bradford White Canada. So you're seeing a family of products and companies all under the Bradford White umbrella. So I want you to be very proud of that and being able to talk to Michigan residents about the fact that this is a Michigan-built product. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about the history of heat here, where these things came from, and what significance that they have in the U.S. market. We're going to also talk about how heat pump water heaters use the same principles of refrigeration to move heat rather than creating heat. Now, that is really important to remember because that is the key to the extremely high efficient product that we're discussing today. Heat pump water heaters move heat rather than creating heat, but because they're hybrid, they actually can do both. We're going to talk about the importance of installation site, because that's going to be ensure the highest energy savings, and it's also going to ensure customer satisfaction. And we're going to talk about the fact that education is critical. Education, just being able to take 5 minutes to talk to a homeowner while you're there doing something other than the water heater. You could be repairing a sink, replacing a toilet, fixing a pipe, but to take 5 minutes and talk about the water heater they have and the water heater that they need in an aerotherm heat pump water heater, you're going to be amazed at the response that you see when you educate them on how this product works, the savings that it provides, and the key part of that being that it pays for itself through energy savings. If you don't learn anything else today, you need to understand that heat pump water heaters do exactly that, and they're the only water heaters capable of making that happen. Heat pump water heaters work everywhere. They work in every market, and contractors will often ask me, well, Greg, how could that possibly work in a cold climate? And I always have to remind them, where's your water heater? Is it outside? No, it's inside the house. It's typically in the basement, sitting next to an HVAC system in a utility room that's not heated or cooled. It's a space in the house that is part of the conditioned space, but it's unconditioned. The temperature in that room is solely affected by the fact that you're 8 feet underground and you've got Mother Earth presenting that free heat that might be somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees depending on the time of year, but it's free. It's free. Your basement in your house is the coolest part of your house in January now, but also in July. You walk downstairs and you stand there and say, wow, I wish the rest of the house felt this way. Well, that's the free heat that you get as a result of the earth being that cool that far down. And the water heater says, I love that because all I need is air that's above 35 degrees because of this water heater. Other manufacturers need 40 degrees, but at 35 degrees, it still can operate as a heat pump water heater. The best markets, again, I get that question now, and you probably have no clue where the best market actually is in sales, but it's the state of Maine. The state of Maine. State of Maine for 3 years in a row has put in 10,000 heat pump water heaters, and they only have a $750 rebate. Now that's because contractors are very active in the state of Maine in being able to get people that have an electric water heater to switch. That's the easiest sell. But then they also work with people that have fuel oil and propane. Again, very easy conversations to have when you can speak to a homeowner about the high cost of propane or the high cost of fuel oil, especially when you're paying in the summertime to heat your water by using a boiler system that says I have to run the whole thing to provide that domestic hot water because it's old summer long, and heater pays for itself, $200 to $300 a year just in fuel oil. So these are the things we're going to be talking about. Some of this is going to be a big surprise to you because there are lots of myths in the market that we want to make sure we're able to bust, because there are a lot of misconceptions about how heat pump water heaters work, where they work best, and how they save energy. Now, we have a whole family of water heaters in Bradford White for heat pump and aerotherm. We have a 50-gallon, we have a 65-gallon, and we have an 80-gallon. The 65-gallon was just born last week. We officially introduced it to the country. So the next picture I'm going to show you is a little bit graphic because this is a birthing picture. You're actually looking inside the plant, not too far from where some of you may be. They're in Middleville. The 65-gallon aerotherm heat pump water heater rolling down the production line. You're seeing some pictures of tanks as the condenser coil is being wrapped around the outside so that you can actually see how that heat transfer takes place externally. Now, why is external such an important point to make? That's because when we don't touch the water, we don't have to worry about descaling. All other water heaters have that fear or concern. Tankless water heaters have that concern because you've got very small water lines and you've got hard water. 80% of the country has hard water. In markets, almost every market, some form of hard water. And hard water attacks the components in water heaters. Well, we wrap the condenser around the outside of the tank under 2 inches of insulation on this product, so the heat transfer takes place towards the bottom of the tank and works its way up without touching anything. So I want you to remember that as we go through this. But you're seeing the production, the first models that rolled off the line of our 65 there on the left. Has a little bit different shape than the 50 that you see on the right on the production line. But we make the 50, the 65, and the 80 all there. Now, you're also not very far away from our iTech Training Center, where what I'm going to show you right now are some of our training videos that are available on our For the Pro website. If you're not a member of our For the Pro, which is a free online service for plumbing professionals only, you simply go to www.forthepro.bradfordwhite.com, sign up, add your company information to this, get your sign-in set up, and now you can go in, and we've got 18 service videos, 18 videos that cover all of the fault codes on this product, that walk you through how to make a repair. And then I've got 9 sales videos on the right-hand side, because you're not going to remember everything that I tell you today. I don't expect you to, but I expect you to be able to go in and watch these videos to refresh yourself. Now, these specific videos are just for Aerotherm, but what you're going to see on there is a series of videos on everything that Bradford White puts out the door. You're our plumbing professionals, and we're in the business for one thing: taking care of you. Unlike our competitors that sell products in retail and try to sell them to you through a plumbing distributor, we only sell through plumbing distribution. We are the plumbing professional's best friend, because we don't compete with you in retail, where you end up with conflicts in the home. And you've all experienced this, where somebody says, I saw in the Sunday circular I can buy this water heater for this much. Why are you charging me so much more? We support distribution because we want to make sure that you have the professional grade products that you need to be able to put those in a house with confidence, and to build that confidence with the homeowner. People don't need to be putting water heaters in themselves. They need plumbing professionals to make sure this is done right. Heat pump water heaters are even more important, because there are special installation things you have to consider with your site selection and the air circulation and things like that that we'll get to. So write that website down, For the Pro. You can put your company information through that website, and we will actually list you, so that when a homeowner goes to bradfordwhite.com, the first thing we screen them for is to find out if it's a homeowner or a plumbing professional. When they say homeowner, then we send them straight to a page that says, if you're looking to replace a water heater, put your zip code in, and we will show them you on the map, so that they can see your company name, your phone number, your information, and get a price from you for a professional installed product. We want to be able to help you with that. There's lots of other resources on there as well, including financing ability, so that you can have instant approvals before you go to the house. All right, For the Pro. Now, let's dig into the heat pump water heater and why this is so important. You probably didn't know this, because most people don't, and I've been doing this for 10 years now, promoting just this product. 10 years, people don't know that water heating is the second highest energy user in the home. They know that they spend more for space heating and cooling than anything else, but for whatever reason, they think the appliances take up more energy. All the appliances in your house don't use as much energy as a water heater. So this is very important to remember. We've got to be focused on educating the homeowner that they spend more on water heating than they do anything else other than space heating and cooling. So being able to understand that is very important. But what they also don't understand, and what I find that contractors often don't understand, is that all forms of heating water, until the advent of heat pump water heaters back in 2009, all other forms of heating water actually lose money every time that heating transaction takes place. And we know that's the case because gas water heaters, you've got a hot pipe coming right out of the top for the flue. And that's heat that we try to capture all of it, but you can't capture all of it. So if you look at the UEF ratings on these water heaters, a 0.60 for a gas tank, a 0.67 is actually Energy Star when it comes to that. That means I'm losing about 30-40 cents of every dollar I spend to heat water because of the heat loss. You go to an electric water heater, a 0.93 UEF, that's less than 100. I'm not getting a dollar's worth of hot water for a dollar spent. And the next one is tankless. People think tankless water heaters, and I always will ask the crowd, how long does it take for a tankless to pay for itself? And I typically hear 8 to 10 years in response. Well, the true answer is that it can never pay for itself because it's not 100% efficient. And to pay for itself, it would have to be more than 100% efficient. So all forms of heating water until heat pump water heaters came out all lose some percentage of energy. Now you look at a heat pump water heater like Aerotherm, it has a UEF of 3.39. What does that mean? That means that for every $1 I spend to heat water, I'm getting about $3 in actual hot water. Spend $1, get 3. That's how you get a payback story. Now that doesn't mean that it has to be in heat pump only. That means that it has to be in the hybrid mode where it's Energy Star tested, where it makes the decision as to which source of heating to use, whether it's the heat pump or whether it's the resistance heat. Because the promise of a heat pump water heater is simple. Deliver the same volume, deliver the same quality of hot water as the electric water heater that it replaces. Exactly the same. They both have a 65-gallon first hour rating. Electric water heater, electric heat pump water heater, they're both electric water heaters. The difference is the heat pump water heater tries to move more heat than anything. When it can't keep up with moving heat, then it switches to the heating elements. So even its recovery time in the hybrid mode is the same. So I want to let that sink in for a minute because these are important things to understand. Because today, water heaters are typically only sold for 2 reasons. Now there's 3. And you guys know what those 2 reasons are. It's called a leaker. It's called a water heater that's old that needs to be replaced. And somebody calls you and says, I need a new water heater. How much? You provide them with a price and you go out and you put a water heater in. But we get stuck in that pattern of replacing the water heater with exactly what we've always done in the past. So if they've got an electric water heater, you put an electric water heater in. Well, I'm going to say now you need to talk to them about a heat pump water heater and replacement. The next reason would be new construction. Anytime a builder is building, he's putting out a spec and saying, I need 50, 100, 300 water heaters installed, and you now sell water heaters for that. The problem is that you as a business have no control over these first 2 events. These things happen. You hope that you can get the business, but you can't grow your business on water heater replacements. They fail at a rate of about 10% a year, but you are competing in the market to try to get those sales when they pop up, but you can't grow your business. A distributor can't say, well, next year we're going to sell 10% more, 20% more water heaters because they can't make the market demand them. These are you waiting for a phone call. But now there's a third reason, and it's called proactive replacement. Proactive replacement says that while I'm in the house fixing something, doing things that I always do as a contractor, a plumbing contractor, an HVAC contractor, that I should always take the time to walk to the water heater and do a courtesy check. Because now I can have a conversation with the homeowner that tells them I had a look at the water heater and I discovered that they don't have an electric water heater. So now you can walk them through the reasons that they want to proactively take out that water heater, regardless of the age, because it doesn't matter. If I'm putting in a heat pump water heater and it has 3 times the efficiency, over 3 times, I'm going to give them a compelling reason to replace it because it's going to pay for itself, because they're going to get every dollar back that they've given me. So that's where we're headed with this. So this is about you being able to present this to a homeowner as that idea. And I will tell you that I've done this training for 10 years. First on behalf of GE, and now I can teach a group of contractors this, provide you with some electronic documentation. In the first day, I start getting phone calls back saying, Greg, it's 3 o'clock this afternoon. Just want you to know we sold our first heat pump water heater. And then I ask them, how did you do it? Well, we finished what we were called to the house for, took 5 minutes, just like you said, talked to them about a heat pump water heater and asked for the order, and they said yes. So what I've done is made this very easy for you guys to be able to do this. This piece right here, I'll be able to send to you electronically. What I'll need you to do is email me if I don't have a list of your email addresses so that I can send this back. I'll make sure my reps in the area, the Burt Company, has this as well. They've all got it already on their phones so that we can forward this. But this is a printed piece of, you can put your company logo on it. But this is going to make it very easy for you to have this conversation in the house. And it might sound something like this. Mr. and Ms. Homeowner, I just finished fixing the sink that you called me out for, but while I was here, I did a courtesy check of your water heater. Nothing to be alarmed about. It looks like it's only about 5 or 6 years old. The only problem is that it's using 3 times the energy of a new Energy Star heat pump water heater. Now, when I say heat pump water heater, I don't want you to get nervous because I've already looked around your house and you've got 3 or 4 heat pumps that I've identified just in a few minutes. They're just called something else. It's called a refrigerator. A refrigerator is a heat pump. It says, my job isn't to make food cold. It's actually to make it less warm by extracting heat out of the inside and dumping it at your feet and the floor by putting a condenser underneath the refrigerator and a fan behind it that blows that heat into the room. And that's why you always feel that warm air at your feet. Colder can take it all the way down to 0 degrees. So there's your heat pump. And I see one in your garage. Looks like that's an older one. It's probably got some beer. How old is that? Oh, 20 years old. And how many times has it been serviced? Never? Yeah, that's kind of the history of refrigeration products. Now, yeah, I saw a dehumidifier in the basement down by your furnace. That's a compressor, condenser, and evaporator as well. It's taking moisture out of the air and collecting it. I saw a freezer in the basement too. Freezer in Kentucky is full of deer. I'm not sure if yours is full of fish, but you've got a freezer, compressor, condenser, and evaporator. And you have central heating and air in the house. This is a proven technology that has been around for a long time that you trust every single day. All I'm asking you to consider is trusting a heat pump water heater. What it looks like. This is a condenser wrapped around the outside of the tank, and when this thing turns on and pulls the warm air in through the evaporator, it attaches that to the 134A refrigerant, and the compressor compresses that gas to expand that temperature to make it extremely hot. So this hot condenser line is wrapped around the tank, and it's able to move heat just like your refrigerator does. The difference though is this: when that heat pump runs, it's only using 550 watts of power. 550 watts, that's not a whole lot. In fact, the energy guide shows the effectiveness of moving heat and creating heat versus just creating heat. The energy guide for your electric water heater, it doesn't matter how old it is about $419 a year. That's at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, which is the national average, which is where energy guides are all based. But let's compare that with an Aerotherm at only $115. That's a $304 a year difference. Now, your water heater has a 6-year warranty. This new one that I'm talking to you about is, you're going to save a little over $3,000 over the next 10 years just by having this water heater in your house. And I'm not going to charge you $3,000 for the water heater. So you're going to get all your money back. Now, we can compare that with the gas water heater here at the bottom. $296 a year for a 0.63 UEF, $115. So it actually costs less to run a heat pump water heater than a gas tank water heater. But this is going to really blow your mind. A 0.90 UEF gas tankless water heater. Now that's middle of the road because they start at a 0.82. You can go up to a 0.97, $170 a year. The Aerotherm, $115 a year. This is why I'm asking you, Ms. Homeowner, to replace your water heater. And I mentioned earlier, the heat pump uses 550 watts of power. That's the equivalent of only 5.5 100-watt light bulbs, whereas standard electric heating elements use 4,500 watts. That's 45 100-watt light bulbs coming on in your house every time your water heater turns on today. And I'm looking around, and I don't even see 45 lights in the house. Now, the Aerotherm advantage from Bradford White is this: is it's going to save you money. And this is an American strong, Michigan strong company that builds this product right here in the state of Michigan. As I explained earlier, it's backed by a 10-year warranty on all the parts. So you're not going to have to worry about anything on this for a long, long time. And it's flexible with 4 operating modes, from heat pump only to resistance heat to hybrid mode and vacation mode. So the only question I have for you today, ma'am, is why would you wait? Let's start saving today. Can I put one of these in? Now I'll tell you guys, if you do this, if you take just a few minutes with this electronic piece on your phone or on your tablet, you will sell heat pump water heaters because it just makes sense. Now, some people will say, well, gosh, Greg, my electric water heater is only 3 years old, 4 years old. I think I need to hang on to it for a while longer. And I usually tell them, go home and hug that water heater because you must love it if you're willing to give the power company $300 a year of your hard-earned money for the privilege of keeping that water heater in the house versus using that money to pay for the heat pump water heater. And now when you add the $1,200 rebate, being able to double dip in some parts of the state, the payback is going to be insanely quick. And that brings me to another piece in here that I'm going to show you as well. And as you make these recommendations, I want you to remember this study that was done out west in the Oregon, Washington state market. They found out that when people, guys like you, would make these recommendations in the home, that 84% of the time people will say yes, even if it's an emergency replacement. That if you'll educate it, don't make up the homeowner's mind for them. Don't assume that they won't spend the money to put a heat pump water heater in, or they won't like it or don't know anything about it, and as a result they won't say yes. They trust you as a plumbing professional standing there, and 84% of the time they'll say yes. Now, I've got another piece that I provide for you that I can electronically send to you as well. This is a PDF, and you're seeing the front of this document on the left side of your screen, and on the right-hand side, you're seeing the back page of the document. This is a leave behind piece that you customize with your company's name, address, and phone number. It's an actual calculator that shows payback. For any of you that are in the HVAC business, you know this is how you sell. You sell through payback. And in the plumbing business, there's never been an opportunity to do that. So let's just take this as an example, and this is an example. Only you determine your own sales price, but let's just assume you were selling this for $19.99, keeping it under $2,000, kind of like the car business does, where you've got that psychological edge. And now you say, gosh, the savings is $1,200. You type that in on your computer at work. When you use this document, it does the math. It says the net price is $7.99. And it says the yearly savings is $300 based on 2.5 occupants per home. In 2.6 years, they get all their money back. 2.6 years, all their money back. Their entire investment is returned to their pocket. When you show this to a homeowner, it makes it very difficult for them to say no. Because if they hang on to the water heater they have, they're giving away $300 a year. They're giving it away. They're getting nothing for it but the same hot water. But if they put this water heater in 2.6 years, they recover their investment, and then they have a guaranteed 10 years of saving $300 a year. Now, that's not to say that a heat pump water heater just expires in 10 years. You know that's not the case. Water heaters last longer than that in many markets. That's saying that they're going to save for sure for those 10 years while they've got a 10-year parts warranty on it, that this product is very robust and that they're going to have many, many years of being able to put this $300 in their pocket. So this becomes really critical. So one other tool that I've devised here to be able to help you tell this message for those of you that use Facebook is to get the word out in a very simple and easy and measurable way. I want you to be able to see the results. So if you use Facebook, these pages that I'm going to show you are already done. I can send them to you. All you have to do is put them up on your Facebook. It's a 6-day messaging system called the Did You Know series, because people don't know this stuff. So on day one, you send this out on Facebook. Did you know that water heating is the second highest energy user in your home? And people are going to look at that and say, you know, I didn't know that. And on day two, this is all you got to do. Did you know that a typical electric water heater has an annual operating cost of $419? And they're going to look and say, you know, I had no clue. I don't look at my water heater other than the day it's installed and the day that it leaves my house. $419 a year is a lot of money. And then they're going to send it on, say, 3. Did you know that an aerotherm heat pump water heater has an annual operating cost of only $115? And they're going to say, what the heck? That's a whole lot of difference, 419 to 115. And because I'm a Kentucky boy, I said, let's simplify this. Let's help them with the math. Did you know that saving $300 a year with a 10-year warranty equals $3,000? $3,000 that I'm going to get back as a result of just putting this water heater in my house. And you'll notice here at the top of the page, we continue to put the previous day's message so that every day they're learning something. And then it's going to come back and say, real plain, did you know that that means aerotherm can pay for itself? And then finally, after we've drawn these lines, we're going to say, this is Love Your Water Heater Month. Call us for a free in-home inspection today. Now, you've put the hook out there, and people are going to bite on that. Now, I'm going to tell you, our CEO said, Greg, sent me an email, says, Greg, what is this Love Your Water Heater Month? I've never heard of this. Well, when is that? And I said, Bruce, it's any month you want it to be, because today people don't love their water heater. They don't even know it until the day that it fails. This is going to cause love with the water heater because it's putting money in your pocket. Every day they see this in their basement, every day they hear it run, they're going to say that's the sound of savings. $300 a year, and it pays for itself through the life of the product for sure, and especially with the rebate. The rebates make that payback so much faster. But even without the rebates, it pays for itself. Now all of a sudden your phone is ringing and people are saying, hey, can you come out and look at my house? I've done this. I've shown this message over the years to other contractors. It absolutely works. I've just made this really easy for you to be able to tell homeowners about this. Now, let's get into the weeds here on the aerotherm advantages and go through how it works. This is the only heat pump water heater that's not made in Mexico, China, Germany, or any other country. It is Michigan proud. It's the only heat pump water heater with top plumbing and electrical connections. Now, that may go right past a lot of people when they start looking at these because you're not used to seeing side connections. But my competitors, all of them, moved their top connections to side connections. Way back in 2010, they did that. And I was stunned when I saw them come out with these side connection water heaters when most American homes have top connection water heaters unless it's a low boy under a sink. And you can't cram a heat pump water heater under there anyway. So top connections means what? Faster, easier installation because you're taking one water heater out with top connections. You're sliding in a heat pump water heater with top connections. It makes it much quicker when you don't have to move the water lines. In fact, when I asked contractors in the state of Maine, how much longer does it take to put in a competitor's product? And they said 45 minutes to an hour by the time we move the plumbing. Now, these are pipe fitting guys that know how to put the copper in and solder it. If you're using other forms of moving that pipe, it may not take as long, but it does take longer than putting in a top connection water heater when the top connection is replaced. We have the only heat pump water heater that's not sold in retail. You can go find a Rheem or an A.O. Smith under all the names that they manufacture right in Lowe's and Home Depot. Selling direct to the homeowner where you don't get the opportunity to sell that water heater. They might ask you to install it, but they're going to buy it and they're going to try it themselves, and then they're going to call you out, and then they're going to complain over how much you're charging in labor because now they see the bill torn apart, parts and labor. This is also the only heat pump water heater that can be fully repaired in the field, both sealed system and electrical. This is a huge advantage because people expect products to be able to be repaired under the warranty, not yanked out of the house and replaced. Your refrigerator has a problem with it. The manufacturer, GE, when I was there, if it had a sealed system problem, we fixed it in the house. 5-year warranty on the sealed system and compressor. So this product says I've got a 10-year warranty on all the parts, 1 year in home labor, And if something should happen to the sealed system, it can be repaired right there in the house. Now, why is that important? Because it builds confidence in the homeowner. There's nothing worse if you're in the HVAC business and plumbing business and you've got service written on your truck than to pull up to a house and go in with a heat pump water heater and have to tell them, I can't fix this. And they're like, what do you mean? You're a service guy. This is only 3 years old. No, I have to take it out, take it back to the distributor, get a replacement, bring that out and put it into the house, and the labor is not covered on that. And I'll often ask guys, what do you charge when you have to make 2 trips to a home, one to diagnose and figure it out, and call the manufacturer and understand that it's a sealed system problem, and then go to the distributor and get a replacement, and then take it back to the house and install it again? And the answer is always the same, $400 to $600, because it takes 2 trips, and by the time we've done that, we're 3-4 hours into it. Versus a guy saying, gosh, what happens with yours? Well, ours puts a fault code in the display, and because it is a dual functioning water heater, it says that if I have a heat pump problem for some reason, I can switch to resistance heat and the homeowner still has hot water. Or if I have a problem with resistance heat, I can switch to heat pump and they still have hot water. So the water heater puts a fault in the display. The homeowner then calls you and says, hey, my water heater's beeping and it's got some code in the front of it. What does that mean? And you say, well, you know what? I've not had to service too many of these because I've been putting them in the last year or two, and they are extremely reliable. If you can give me that fault code, and I've got your model and serial number in my records, let me call Bradford White and find out. You call us as the only manufacturer that has 24/7 technical assistance, 24/7, to be able to walk you through, okay, the problem you're describing is not a sealed system repair. Let us send you a part, and we're going to walk you through how to fix that. We'll tell you now, but you can also call us back when you're there and we'll walk you through that repair. But if it is a sealed system problem, I'll often ask the HVAC guys, if we had to send you a part out and you went out and replaced it, everything on this water heater, and we know this from the history, typically can be repaired in about 2 hours or less, even if it's sealed system related with a guy that does that kind of work. And then I'll say, what do you charge for that repair? And he says, well, if it's just me, because that's all it takes is one guy to do a sealed system repair, I'm probably going to charge somewhere around $200 or $300. It's going to be less, maybe $300 or $400. It's going to be less than what they would have paid for a couple of guys to have to go in and replace it. So we build confidence with that. And I want you to remember, this design water heater has the longest history in the market, in the field, 10 years as of last fall. We know the service history on that is this thing is the best there is. It is the most bulletproof design, proven with 10 years in the field. This water heater, moving on down the line, has 3/4 inch threaded side connection condensate port. You'll notice with my competitors' products, I think A.O. Smith requires you to assemble that. This is a molded pan that has this in it. This is actually a Permalon tube plastic that's been used on this for almost 10 years now. It's a 3/4 inch male threaded connection with an overflow port just a 1/2 inch higher to the right of that. That overflow is there so that if anything clogs the condensate, it's going to drip on the floor, and a homeowner is going to call you and say, I think my water heater is leaking. And you're going to ask them, do you see water dripping from that little port on the right hand side towards the back? And they're going to say, yes, that's it. We need to come out and clean your condensate tube. Now, I will tell you, a 3/4 inch condensate tube does not easily get clogged. Something's got to crawl up into it for that to happen, but this is very, very easy for you to be able to make your condensate connections on. This can be laid down for transportation. This has been for years the only heat pump water heater that could be laid down for transportation. I think my competitors are now saying that you can lay theirs down, but they prefer you move it upright. The box on this product is marked on the back, lay down this side only. The oil will not leak out of the compressor. It will be able to be stood right up and instantly taken into the house and hooked up. It can be installed in a 36-inch closet with a louver door. And as I mentioned, we have 2 lines for you to call. We have a dedicated heat pump water line that's available from 8 to 7. And after hours, you can call the 24/7 technical assist line. We're also enhancing our Wi-Fi connection on this product with a new plug-in module that will be available this year. This is going to allow utilities to talk to the water heater. It's going to allow homeowners to put an app on their phone so that without having to walk to the basement. If you have questions about that, we'll address those at the end. Here's the lineup with my competitors. I want you to see, because some of them will make claims of having a higher efficiency, which they do in their numbers. It shows a higher UEF, but I want you to see that we're all within $5 of each other in operating costs. $5. And this is a tried and true design that has been around longer than any of my competitors can say. So you've seen the enhancements that we did this. I just want you to remember that when you look at these. Now, also I want you to note that on a side connection water heater, there is a national code requirement that says you have to have a vacuum relief valve installed. That's an extra step in the plumbing. That's an extra expense in the installation that you have to account for with A.O. Smith and with Rheem that you do not have to account for with the Bradford White. So you can see with those valves what it kind of looks like when you get an installation in with a side connection water heater. In fact, I want you to be able to understand how some of those things work. This, you've got pipes coming out of the side that can kind of go everywhere. And I know Rheem will talk about their product being maybe a zero clearance, but I've yet to see one installed with zero clearance when it's got pipes coming out of the side, because you have to have room to be able to do the plumbing unless you're a former heart surgeon and know how to do that real tight plumbing to keep it away from there. So just want you to remember that when you see it. Some common myths about heat pump water heaters is they don't make enough hot water, when in fact they perform the same as an electric water heater when they're in the hybrid with the same 65-gallon first hour rating. Some people will say, well, gosh, they're hard to install. And I'm like, no, it's got the same top connections on an aerotherm. The only thing you're accounting for is the condensate drain line that's on the side. Some people will say they don't work in cold climates, and I have to remind them your water heater is not outside, it's in the house. These were tested by all manufacturers by the Department of Energy in a 68-degree test chamber, because 68 degrees is what most people keep their homes. Now in the basement, it's going to be a little bit cooler, or in a garage, this is going to operate from 35 to 120 degrees. And if it goes above or below those, it simply switches on the heating elements. They might say, well, gosh, that water heater makes noise and the other electric water heater did. And I'll say, you're exactly right. It's a fan sound. It's a slight compressor noise. It's about 55 dB, the same as a dishwasher would sound. So yeah, not one of those things that people pay much attention to. And considering the fact that it's in the basement or in a garage, it doesn't get heard. So having a quieter water heater doesn't really much matter at that point. And then some people will say, well, you have to prevent condensate from freezing. Like, well, no, there's not any condensation removed during the winter months if it was in your garage, because there's not moisture enough in the air to be able to make that happen. So there is no concern, nothing special that has to be done. Or they'll say, well, you need to be a refrigeration technician. No, you don't, not to install it. This is the same sealed system that's in the refrigerator in any house. You take it in, you hook it up, and it runs. If it needs to be serviced and you're a plumbing company, the homeowner is going to call you, you're going to call us, or the homeowner may call us, and we're going to recommend other service technicians in the area that do refrigeration work. You don't have to be responsible for that portion of the water heater if you don't have an HVAC license to make that happen. Don't let that stop you or slow you down from selling and installing. Warranty is between Bradford White and the homeowner. We owe them that ability to be able to fulfill that warranty. And we can either fulfill that through you if you do both plumbing and HVAC, or we'll do it through a refrigeration contractor if necessary. But keep in mind, again, sealed systems on refrigerators are some of the most reliable technologies out there. You've probably got a 15, 20-year-old model in your house that you've never had to have service. And some people will say they cost too much, and the truth is that they actually pay for themselves. We talked about the sound level. The actual dB ratings are 55 on this product. And again, on the scales that are shown, it's the same sound level as a refrigerator. So where are the best places to install it? in a basement, which is a non-conditioned space inside a conditioned home, because you got that free earth heat coming in somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees. Garages that don't freeze, if a water heater's in there today and it's not freezing the pipes because it's too cold, then you could put a heat pump water heater in there as well, and it will work just the same. Laundry rooms where you've got a dryer producing a lot of moisture, door on the front, those all work exceptionally well. And you can see a few installations here that I pulled off the internet of all manufacturers' products. So you can see the difference in a clean installation with top connections versus what you have to do with side connections. So let's talk a little bit real quickly, because we're running out of time here, on how this works. You start using hot water in the house, and the water heater says, I'm going to bring on the heat pump, 550 watts of power. I'm going to use the fan to draw warm air across the evaporator, and I'm going to attach that heat to the 134A refrigerator. I'm going to compress it then to make it boiling hot, and I'm going to release the heat by wrapping the hot condenser coil around the outside of the tank. Now, I want you to note that that condenser coil goes all the way to the bottom. All the way to the bottom, because that's where the dip tube is pushing the cold water in. We're attacking the coldest water with the highest concentration of heat with a patented wrap that says we go down to the bottom, then we come up a couple of layers, then we go down again, and then we come back up again, and we release the heat from the bottom, moving up to eliminate stratification in the tank. Now, we also still leave in the standard electric heating elements, so that if the heat pump is not keeping up because the 13-year-old jumped in the shower and said, now it's time for me to use every drop of hot water, water heater says, okay, I'm going to flip off the heat pump and I'm going to act just like your old electric water heater did. I'm going to turn on the upper heating element and I'm going to recover the top 30% of the tank just like your old water heater did. Then I'm going to flip it off and go to the bottom heating element, which is 4,000 watt instead of 4,500. And I'm going to bring that on with the heat pump and recover the bottom 60 to 70% of the tank. Then I'm going to turn off because I've satisfied the thermostat and I'm ready to do it all over again. In some cases, it can respond with just the heat pump at that point and keep up. If you came to my house in Kentucky, you'll see my heat pump water heaters are in heat pump only mode year round. Because our shower patterns have always been, when my girls were here, it was 4 of us in the house. We'd take showers in the morning and we would all leave to go to school and work. If the heat pump water heater portion in heat pump only takes a little longer to recover, I don't care. I'm not home. So if you understand the shower patterns that people have, you can save even more energy. I never heat water with more than 550 watts of power. And I leave it that way year round. One is in a garage and one is in a concreted area furnace room. Both of them operate just fine using nothing but heat pump only. And I keep my tanks cranked up to 135 and 40, depending on if I've got visitors coming to the house. So just know that that heat pump can do the job. You've got flexibility because this does operate as a heat pump only, which makes it solar friendly and generator friendly, so that if you had a power outage and you needed to bring the water heater on, you bring it on and you put it in heat pump only. Then you bring on other parts of your house and you built essentially one more refrigerator into the mix. We've got a standard operating mode as a backup in case anything happens, and the water heater can flip from heat pump to resistance heat. But that's also there so if somebody did have this upstairs in the living space, in a hallway or off the kitchen, and grandma says in January, gosh, this cooling effect that I feel because this water heater, as a result of absorbing some heat, will put off a 3 to 5 degree temperature change in a 700 cubic foot space. So in January, because it's upstairs and not downstairs, and somebody says, I can feel that, then I'll tell them to go to the water heater and put it in electric mode only. A timer pops up that starts at 3 days, and it says, how many days do you want to be in this non-energy saving mode? And you can do it up to 99 days. So I may say, well, gosh, grandma's going to be here for another 30 days. So I'm going to set it for 30 days or 35 days, whatever it needs to be. The water heater then operates at the same efficiency that they had with their previous, a 0.93, and then it automatically switches back to the hybrid mode. They don't have to remember that. It'll do it on its own. Then we get our vacation that says you can tell it when you're gone, and it turns itself off, and then the recovers the entire tank so that you're ready to go. And I already mentioned the communication port there at the bottom. It doesn't look like much in that drawing, but that's where you can plug in a communication device. And also that's where we test every single water heater as it's going down the line. Not every fifth one, not random testing. Every single water heater is tested before it goes into a box. We turn on every circuit, run every wire, make sure nothing got pulled apart. We verify the sealed system is functioning as it should. Then we box the water heater up and send it out. You won't find quality control any tighter from any. So what's the same? It provides the same volume of hot water. It's designed for the same installation footprint. It's 21 3/4 in diameter. It has the same plumbing connections on top, and it uses the same 30 amp electrical. All the same as what you're used to today. What's different is that it needs air. 700 cubic feet. That's a 10 by 10 by 7 room, or an equivalent. Multiply height times width times depth, and you do nothing special. But if you do put it in a closet, right now we want a 36-inch closet with a top to bottom louver door. Also means that everything on this water heater can be serviced in that space. That gives us 7 inches of space around the tank. Now, 7 inches is not a lot, but it's exactly what's needed to take the top off of it and make every repair without removing it. Now, some of my competitors will say we have zero clearance. You can push ours up against the wall, and I have to remind contractors like you, what does that mean if you have to service it? That means you have to totally drain the tank and uninstall it and pull it out, take the top off, make the repair, hope you got it right, put it back in place, fill it up again, and then run it, and then find out whether it all works or not. It's not convenient to do that. You could push mine up against the wall on the left-hand side. We would allow that a zero clearance, but I tell you that you're going to have to also uninstall it and take it out to be able to remove the screws on the top to make some of the repairs that might be necessary over the course of the next 10 years. So do that with your eyes wide open, understanding that if you're the guy that's going to go back and work on it, you might have to explain some things to the homeowner about what you were doing. Now, condensate drain line, we talked about that. It will remove up to 2 quarts of moisture a day as a byproduct of heating water. That's just what it does. The only point of maintenance is a periodic cleaning of the air filter, and this water heater is smart enough that it will tell you when it needs to be cleaned. It's going to beep and it's going to blink the filter light. The homeowner is going to come down, squeeze 2 little tabs very conveniently, take it over to the sink, wash it, shake it out, snap it back in place, and they're going to hold to reset that button for a few seconds, and then it's back off again and ready to go. Very, very easy for them to do that. Now, we do have an air kit for this if you need to duct it somewhere, but I'm going to tell you, you won't need to duct it somewhere. There is no reason to duct a heat pump water heater. And one of my competitors has tried to make a real big deal about the fact that they've got a duct on the front of theirs. They did that thinking a couple of years ago that the Northwest was going to require ducting. And I argued for years when my GE position that ducting is not necessary. So they did an actual 1-year study in test homes, literal test homes that were empty, where they put a heat pump water heater in one, then they put a regular electric water heater in the other one, and they moved them around in the course of a year from upstairs, downstairs, closets, and they concluded at the end of that study, ducting is not needed for a heat pump water heater. The minimum effect that it has on a 700 cubic foot space does not affect the performance of a house unless it's sitting right in front of your thermostat. Now it's telling the furnace to kick on when it doesn't really need to by giving a false reading. So there's only one place essentially that you wouldn't want to install one, and that's what they determined, is in a closet right across from the thermostat where the cold air coming out would fake out the furnace into thinking that it needs to come on when the rest of the house temperature is just fine. This is a 5,000 BTU compressor. It's a 5,000 BTU air conditioner that only runs when one thing is happening in the house. Somebody is using hot water. Doesn't run all day. This tank is insulated to an R19 with the 2 inches of insulation, so it only loses about 5 degrees in standby over the course of 10 hours. That means it doesn't run when you're not at home. So while it may run 2 or 3 hours in the morning, doesn't run all day, and then it might run 3, 4, 5 hours in the afternoon and evening because you spread out drawing hot water, washing your hands, rinsing some dishes, things like that, running your dishwasher, and then it doesn't run all night. That's the way a heat pump water heater works. And you always remember, if you duct one, that means you're taking air out of the house and you now have to bring air back into the house. And in most states, Michigan included, trying to bring outside air in to make a heat pump water heater work when the outside air might be 20 degrees or 5 degrees, it won't work as a heat pump then. Not a good idea. I've had guys tell me, well, you know, I want to be able to blow cool air in my workshop, and I'll tell them, just remember, you got to tell the kids to line up and take showers when you're going to work. Here's our service procedure. Electrical components, anybody can repair. Sealed system requires an HVAC license. About 80% of the things that could happen are not sealed system related. They're purely electrical things, replacing a sensor on the front, replacing a fan that would have an issue. Thermal cutoff switch you might have to replace. If any of those things happen, that would be considered typical electrical maintenance that anybody would be qualified to do. But what I want you to do is to always remember, don't run a service call on a heat pump water heater until you call the manufacturer first. We're going to tell you whether it's in heat pump mode right now and still running, or whether it's in resistance mode. By the fault code, we know a lot of these things over the phone, whether it's an emergency or not. And if you need a part, there's no point in you going out to the house and standing there and telling the homeowner, well, I need a part. Now I'm going to call Bradford White and get it. We can tell you that ahead of time in cases just by knowing what the fault code is. And then we send you the part directly to your shop. You set up the service call. And then if you need further help, you can watch the videos, you can call us, and we'll walk you through the repair, answer your questions, and make sure that you're able to make that homeowner happy. Now, we follow that up with what we call white glove treatment for that homeowner. In the first year, any Aerotherm heat pump water heater that is serviced, we want to verify with the homeowner that they're still happy, because we don't want them out there blogging about us and about you, that something didn't happen the way that it should and the heat pump water heaters are no good. We know that that's not the case, but a bad service experience can lead to that impression. So we call every homeowner in that first year when they've had a service call, and we say, hey, did the service technician show up? Yes, he did. Did he have the part ready to make the repair? Yes, he did. And how do you feel about your water heater now? I love it. We hear that stuff. We do hear that stuff. So the handful of service issues that we have, and again, you can understand that if we call every customer, it's not like there's a lot of phone calls to make, but we assure quality control. So know that if anything happens in that first year, we are going to speak to that person and make sure that they're happy with the way service went and that they still love the product. Here are the fault codes that would be listed with the water heater. This gives you an explanation of what each of these are. This does have thermistors on the tank so that it precisely controls the temperature. And when the heat pump turns off and it satisfies the tank, because we're controlling that electronically with thermistors, we know that the tank temperature inside is going to be within 3 degrees of whatever the tank temperature is set to. So one of the things I always advise you, when you replace a water heater today, you don't know what the temperature is. All you know is that it's got a thermostat that says hot or hotter. Open the TNP valve, fill a 5-gallon bucket, drop a thermometer in it, show the homeowner, ma'am, your water heater is set to 132 degrees. Before I leave today, I'm going to recommend that you push the buttons on this water heater up on temperature and match the temperature so you have an apples for apples comparison. Because you know how this works. We ship it at 120. Their old water heaters cranked up to a higher temperature. 2-3 days later, they call you up and say, this water heater is not as good as my old one. And you're like, what do you mean? Well, we're not getting all 3 showers that we used to. Well, when you drop that tank temperature 10 degrees, 12 degrees, 15 degrees, you're not going to get as much volume of hot water because you're going to use more of it. So let's make sure that they have it set to the right temperature set point. Very few people leave a water heater set at 120. The average temperature 3 or 4 years ago, one of the studies that I saw was 135 degrees. So that's where I keep mine. And when my kids come home and the grandkids, I crank it up to 140 because then they'll use less hot water and we'll get more showers out of it. Now, this is your chance to grow your business. You've got an incredible $1,200 rebate that makes this water heater pay for itself in 2.6 years. Now it's all about you being able to tell the homeowner this story so that they say yes. So we can start growing your business right now. Let's all get heat pumped up. So guys, now I'm gonna flip back to my first screen so that you can capture my email address because I don't think we've got yours. And I want to make sure you get the electronic documentation that I've mentioned here. If you send me an email, then what I'm going to do is make sure that you have this, all of the electronic documentation, and you can start selling today. So it's gholliday, HOLLADAY at bradfordwhite.com. You send me an email, and I'll make sure that you get all of that. So Diana, let's open it up for any questions. Anybody that's typed any in, or anybody that wants to ask them verbally, let's do it.
All right, so we do have one question through the chat, and they're asking what the periodic maintenance needed is for an aerotherm in areas with hard water. So is there any kind of requirement for flushing of the tank?
This is going to be the same as any other tank would be. You are periodically going to go to that 3/4 inch brass valve at the bottom, and you're going to flush it out. You're going to drain it. Every tank manufacturer asks you to do that. Now, remember, when we're heating from the sides, the scale buildup is not going to be in the same areas where we're collecting, or I'm sorry, where we're pushing the heat through the tank. Normally, you get more issues with a gas tank on the bottom where you've got that 45,000 BTU blowtorch crisping up the bottom of that tank where calcium and magnesium. We still want it out of this tank because it affects the volume. But, you know, we warrant even the electric heating elements in this for 10 years because they're rarely used. And when heating elements are activated is when they tend to gravitate and grab that calcium and magnesium, but even for 10 years on those parts. Just open that ball valve at the bottom periodically and flush it like you would any other tank. Any other questions?
Yeah, there are quite a few questions coming into the chat window here. Let's see here, and you should be able to view those as well on your window. But with an integral pan in the heater, is an additional water heater pan required?
A pan underneath the water heater. Water heater. I think in most installations, you're always going to have a pan just to be able to catch any drips or drops, you know, from anything minor that would happen on a leak. Treat this just like you do any other water heater.
I was just going to say, yep, if you can go ahead and answer the demand response capable question, that would be great.
The answer to that is yes. The panel on the front of this, the control board, is Wi-Fi enabled, but right now we're enhancing to the front of the water heater, and we're going to be releasing that later this year. I hope to see it by summer and fall. That's what I'm being told for sure. It will be out this year. We know that. We're making some enhancements to it based on some commands that the utilities are wanting across the country. But yes, and that's going to be about a $50 part that a homeowner can buy and plug in right into the front of the heater. There's no, the setup is going to be download the app and put that on your phone and walk through those setup procedures, and then they'll be able to do that. This will also open it up for utilities that want to be able to do some load control, and there are several across the country, including California, that are all asking for this, and every played in making sure that their water heaters are enabled for that.
One other question about condenser tubing.
Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one other one here on the chat about the condenser tubing. Is it copper, aluminum, or both? They can't really make it out from the photos.
It's aluminum, and it's actually pulled in. The water heater sits on a platform, and it gets spun, and it takes it a matter of just a few seconds when that water heater spins around to wrap that aluminum onto the tank itself. It's actually pulled in enough to create a D shape to it, and there's lithium grease behind that that ensures heat transfer takes place. Then we put the jacket on it and foam everything in. So it's embedded against the tank, and it is aluminum. That is the only thing that can't be repaired on a heat pump water heater. Once it's wrapped around that way, you can't fix it. Now, the good news is there are very few leaks that ever occur as a result of that wrap. This is the same type of a system that exists in your refrigerator at home. The energy saver switches that used to be on refrigerators 25 years ago was a multi-strip heater that prevented it from condensating in the summertime. So when Energy Star started doing some ratings for manufacturers of refrigerators, appliance companies like GE, we turned that into, let's just take some of the heat that we're taking out of the inside of the refrigerator and let's wrap that condenser line around the case to create a warm spot that will prevent condensation. So this has been done in refrigeration for, what other questions, guys?
There is one kind of question that I want to put a little bit more detail behind real quickly. So you, Greg, mentioned, did state that these units will be potentially demand response capable with a new module. But there are some utility programs right now that run a simple on-off control program for for electric water heaters. Now, I know this unit has a compressor in it. Should these units be connected to that type of demand response control or no?
It can, but it's unnecessary. Most utilities recognize that a heat pump water heater uses 70% less electricity. So they're chasing essentially 550 watts in the house. So, 8-9 years ago, this question came up all the time because all they had was simple on and off switches. So yes, can you use that on here? You can. They just have to make sure, and I don't think there are any switches out there today that don't operate this way. It has to be able to break the power load from the water heater. And as long as it's breaking the leg on the water heater so that there is no power and not sending partial power, which again can actually regulate the water heater. When it comes back on again after you've broken the power, it remembers the setting that it was in, and it remembers the temperature control that it was set to. But it's unnecessary. I mean, you're chasing $115 a year. It just doesn't make sense really to put one of those switches on these water heaters. That's why utilities tend to move now to a more measured control. And in most cases, the demand response is going to be, we're having high power usage at 5 o'clock today, so we're going to send a signal. And if they have a heat pump water heater, the worst we're going to do is tell it to just be a heat pump for the next couple of hours versus turning water heater. Sign up for those programs where they say you could actually lose all of your water heater function. Okay, they can be kind of low.
Going to go ahead and unmute everybody. So if you have any questions, feel free to chime in.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Andrew. I actually work for a utility, Upper Peninsula Power Company. So what I hear is contractors in our area don't want to install heat pump water heaters because of the hard water and scale, which you've addressed. How would you encourage contractors to relook at hybrid water heaters or heat pump water heaters?
Well, and that's funny you would say that because I rarely hear that. There is no greater concern for this than any tank that they're putting in. Now, if they're putting tankless in, now you got water lines the size of your pinky. And a tankless water heater has to be routinely descaled just to keep the heat exchanger clean. But a heat pump water heater is just an electric tank. I'm not sure what else they could be using in that market that would be treated any differently or have any better results. The worst you're going to have is in the water. If they don't have a softener, which I would think most Michigan residents, as a result of having hard water, would put a water softener in. But if they don't have a softener, then that just means the calcium and magnesium will collect in the bottom of any tank, whether it has heating elements in it or not. And then periodically, you open that valve and let a few quarts of water leave until you don't see that white milky film anymore. I mean, they must have some misconception, and I know why they have that. Rheem's first heat pump water heater that they put out in 2010 actually pulled the water from the tank with a pump and ran it through a heat exchanger, and that design failed miserably. because you had the opportunity. 80% of the U.S. has hard water, and as a result, the condenser line collected that calcium and magnesium, and the efficiency just went down like a rock after it's been in for even just a few months. So with this being external, I'm sure that these contractors have no awareness of that. I would welcome the opportunity to do a webinar or even have some training that we can do. I do webinars typically on Fridays because I cover the entire country and I travel. But if you wanted to get together a group of contractors and we can do this same type of training, I guarantee you.
I appreciate that, Greg. I'll email you and I'll try to get a list together.
Excellent, excellent. I want you to think about how big an opportunity this is. You're talking about a water heater that gives you $3 in hot water for every $1 you spend. Think about how many years it's going to take in the Michigan market before you walk into a house and look over and say, oh, sky is the limit. This is about just taking a few minutes to educate a homeowner while you're already there as a trusted energy advisor. I mean, tankless water heaters came out, what, 15 years ago, 18 years ago. Nobody wanted to touch those. They all thought that's way too complicated. And then, a guy named Paul Harvey, working with Renai, starts talking about how in the Harvey home we never take a cold shower again. And all of a sudden, homeowners started asking about it. Don't put yourself in a position of having a homeowner ask you 3 weeks after you put a standard electric water heater in replacement, have them call you up and say, why didn't you tell me about an Energy Star heat pump water heater? I would have put that in if you'd have told me. They trust you to be the energy advisor. What happens? This isn't hard sales. This is soft sales. This is, I want you to be informed. I want you to know that the technology has changed because water heaters were never Energy Star regulated, never rated until 2009. Never. First rating went to GE GeoSpring heat pump water heater. This is that design. Same design. Same essential water heater, now owned and built by Bradford White. So you're looking at the first Energy Star. People don't know that water heaters were never Energy Star rated. So be the one that tells them the story and just watch what happens. This is not difficult to do. This is not difficult to talk about. People light up when you start telling them about how much money they can save.
Well, we're getting close to the end of time. I want to take this opportunity to let you guys know that the reason why we held this webinar today is because the Energy Optimization Program did do some direct marketing to our end users of our electric providers at the end of 2019 through the Country Lines magazine. And with that, we have seen an increase in heat pump water heaters, but they're coming from retail. And so we didn't want you guys to miss out on the opportunity to educate your consumers as they're coming to you. We wanted to make sure you're aware of the product that's available to you to sell directly to your customers. Again, through the Energy Optimization Program, we offer a $700 incentive on the heat pump water heater for our energy optimization users that are with Great Lakes Energy. They are eligible for an additional $500 incentive direct from Great Lakes Energy. Please feel free to contact me for more information about the incentives. And again, we will post this webinar online for you to watch at a later date.
Guys, I appreciate you hanging in there with us this morning and learning about this. You see my email, gholiday@bradfordwhite.com. You see my cell phone. I've got the Burke Agency in your market with lots of great employees that are willing to come on site to your business and do some training in person so that you get this same experience right there with your team. Let us help you learn more about this. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great weekend.
Thank you all. Have a great day.